When I think of multiplayer madness, Super Smash Bros. Is probably the franchise that I think of foremost. Mario Kart and Mario Party would probably like to have a word with me on that, but I'm sticking to my guns here. The original felt so fresh and amazing when it came out in 1999. So, let's talk about it. Super Smash Bros. Was developed by Nintendo, of course, with Masahiro Sakurai at the helm. He previously worked on the Kirby franchise. He was working on a game called Kakuko Gimu Dragon King the fighting game, let's call it, and he was hoping that it could be released for the beautiful mess that was a Nintendo 64. He thought the game was fun, of course, but a bit generic, and it wouldn't sell too well without a gimmick thrown into the game, as fighting games didn't sell too well at the time. So he had an amazing idea. He was going to spruce it up with Nintendo characters. He wasn't sure that upper management would say yes, but he decided to just go with it and work on a prototype. The higher-ups agreed that this was a move, and a fantastic one at that would spice up the game. The game was granted a green light with a small budget. The game was released in Japan on January 21st, 1999, and on April 26th, 1999 in the US. The general consensus was that this was an amazing game back in the day. As I said in the opening, it was just so fresh, new, and a great concept in general. This was one of the front-runner games that justified the 4 controller ports on the Nintendo 64, along with the aforementioned Mario Kart 64 and the Mario Party franchise. You take control of one of 12 characters in what's called a platform fighter. Since this was directed by Sakurai, once again, the main man behind the Kirby series, this makes sense as Kirby was a platforming video game series. The basic idea is that with a variety of moves, you make your opponent's damage increase. I can't tell you how many people think that the numbers at the bottom of the screen are health values. As the number goes up, that player will receive more and more knockback. It can go all the way to 999, but you probably won't get that far. When a player is knocked off the screen, they will lose a life. There is a stock mode and a timed mode. Stock is basically the last man standing wins. There is a clock on timed mode, and whoever has the most points when the time hits 0 wins. A KO will net you 1 point, a fall will make you lose a point, and an SD will make you lose 2. As I mentioned earlier, there are 12 characters in tow. You start off with 8 characters, and they all represent different franchises, sort of. Mario represents the Super Mario franchise, DK represents the Donkey Kong franchise, Link represents the Legend of Zelda franchise, Kirby represents his own series, Samus is there to represent the Metroid series, Fox is present to have a representative for the Star Fox franchise, Yoshi represents, wait for it, the Yoshi's Island sub-series, and Pikachu is the rep chosen for Pokemon. There are 4 hidden characters as well. Luigi and Jigglypuff are second reps for Super Mario Bros. And Pokemon series respectively. Meanwhile, Captain Falcon from F-Zero and Ness from Earthbound join the fun. The roster is pretty dang great for the time. I'd argue that these characters are super recognizable and just scream Nintendo. There's something great to be said about Ultimate opening up the floodgates for third-party reps, but sometimes I like them to just focusing on Nintendo's properties only. Also, there are no weeb sword fighters, which is just simply a breath of fresh air after Smash 4 and especially Ultimate. The only nitpick I really have concerning the roster is Jigglypuff and Luigi. I think it would have been neat if they really put on their thinking caps to rope in 12 different franchises and not have double-dipped. Something like Banjo-Kazooie would have been sick, but I kinda can't imagine a roster different from what we have now. It feels right. But fun fact, did you know that James Bond was being considered because Rare was owned by Nintendo at the time, and Rare had the James Bond rights as far as video games were concerned? This proved to be very difficult, and a lot of licensing would need to take place. It proved to be too costly and too time-consuming, but man, that would have been sick as hell. Let's start off with that opening. It's probably my favorite in the franchise. I love how it displays the characters in their own worlds. Since there are only 8 characters, each one gets a fair amount of screen time and more attention can be given to each one. The way that Pikachu rocks in that Pokeball is just adorable, as are the Yoshis hatching. It shows Link in Hyrule, and it just gives like a sense of greatness to me. But then, it shows Kirby and Mario facing off, they jump up and clash against each other, with the other 6 characters following, the 4 unlockable characters jump in at the end, and the announcer screams,
Super Smash Brothers!
It is just so epic, and I really can't think of a way to make it better. Every character has their own unique moveset, physics, jumping ability, and movement. We're going to be taking a look at Kirby here since he's adorable. The main attacking buttons are A and B. If the A button is pressed, your character will do a neutral punch. If you tilt the stick forward with A, you'll do a front tilt. Every character also has an up tilt and a down tilt. These tilts are relatively powerful, but their strength doesn't compare to smash attacks. A smash attack is performed when one smashes the control stick. As with tilt attacks, there's a forward, up, and down smash. The A button is also used for air attacks, in which characters have 5. They all have an up air, a down air, a forward air, a back air, and a neutral air. Each character has 3 special moves too, which are used with the B button. There's the neutral special, an up special, and a down special. Side specials were later added in Melee. Lastly, there are grabs, which is activated by hitting the R button. After grabbing an opponent, you have a choice between a forward throw or a backward throw. That's not all. There are also get-up attacks one could use if they're knocked over or if they're holding onto a ledge. Their animation changes when the player is at or over 100% damage, which I think is neat. You can also shield yourself by hitting the Z button. If you tilt the control stick left or right when the shield is up, your character will do a dodge roll. If you hold onto your shield for too long, it will break and your character will get dizzy, or in Jigglypuff's case, die. Every character is given at least 2 jumps, but Kirby and Jigglypuff are given about 5. The Up special is another special jump if your name is not Yoshi or Jigglypuff. Speaking of these specials, these can vary greatly from character to character. For example, Kirby eats the opponent and steals their special. Mario throws a fireball, Captain Falcon punches, and Pikachu does a mini thunder jolt. As you can see, some are projectiles, some are super strong attacks, and Kirby is amazing. You can also taunt by hitting the L button. I personally think that Kirby has the best one. That's the basics of Smash 64, and it creates a game that is so much fun. When you combine this with the fact that the Nintendo 64 has 4 controllers, it creates a game that is super hectic and has a high replayability. Not just that though, Smash is basically the textbook definition of easy to learn and hard to master. I've been playing this franchise on and off again for 2 decades and I still eat ass at it. There's something satisfying about picking a character and learning their moveset inside and out, analyzing knockbacks, seeing how much they string into different attacks, and thinking about how you're going to finish them off at high damages. It's just a lot of fun for me. There's also a mechanic called stale moves. Basically, this will weaken the move more than you use it consecutively. I love this because it encourages the player to be creative and try different moves. Let's go over the modes now, and there's not too much here. First up is the one-player game. You pick one of the 12 characters and fight through predetermined battles. It's the same every single time. First you fight Link, then you fight 18 lightweight different colored Yoshis. Then the third level is to fight Fox in his home stage. But then, you get to complete and break the targets. This is a fun little bonus stage that I'll get to later. Stage 4 is you fight the Mario Bros, which I find odd because Luigi's unlockable. Even if you don't have him unlocked, he'll still be present to fight you. Stage 5 has you fight Pikachu in Saffron City. Stage 6 has you fighting a giant-ass DK with 2 CPU buddies who accompany you. Since he's giant, he does a shitload of damage and knockback. He can also lift a very high percent. He also has a decent amount of super armor, meaning weaker attacks won't make him flinch. Bonus Stage 2 is the Board the Platforms challenge, and I miss this shit, man. This is the only Smash game that has this mode. Stage 7 is the Kirby team, where you have to defeat 8 Kirbys with the starting 7 characters' abilities. In Stage 8, you have to fight Samus on Planet Zeebs. And Stage 9, you have to fight Metal Mario, who's a bitch to KO in the harder modes. Since he is metal, he takes much less knockback and can be very difficult to KO quickly. Bonus Stage 3 is the player trying to make it to the finish in a small layout. Stage 11 has the fighting Polygon team, and Stage 12 is a face-off against Master Hand. Let's unpack this a bit here. Following Smash games mix up the order of the fights and they're randomly generated. This helps keeps the tedium down, but Smash 64's one-player game could definitely get tedious if one plays it too many times because it's virtually the same every time. Some things like your allies and the 8th Kirby's copy ability can change, but it feels 95% the same every time. The bonus stages are going to break up the sameness a bit, as the 12 characters have their own unique break the targets and board the platform challenges that cater to their movesets. There are 5 difficulty levels to pick from. You can also turn off the time and set your stock to 1 through 5. The title card at the end are adorable, and if you can manage to get 1,000,000 points, the announcer will say something different. If you lose all your lives, it's game over, baby. The consequence is losing half of those points that you worked so hard for. I still love certain things about the one-player game, though. I think that the fighting Polygon team is infinitely more fun and interesting than the wireframe and other characters that appear in later games. Every character gets a Polygon counterpart, and I just think that's so cool and fun. Apparently, this is when Mario started becoming an actual character. He's made appearances in games like Mario Kart 7 and Mario Kart 8 later down the line. I love the fight with Master Hand, and I think the theme is so great. If you take a look at the introduction of the game, Master Hand will carry one of the characters in toy plush form. I love the idea that Master Hand is a kid that is setting up all these stages. It's that kind of imagination that pushes Nintendo games from good to great. There are 3 bonus stages at toe here, and the first one I'll talk about is Break the Targets. This mode drops a player into a character-specific layout with 10 targets in it. The objective is to break the targets in the time allocated if the player is playing one-player game. However, if this mode is selected separately, you have unlimited time to complete it. This mode always feels like part of the franchise's soul, and Smash hasn't felt the same ever since Break the Target's departure in Smash 4. Up next, there's the mode Board the Platforms. This drops a player in a character-specific layout. The objective is to land on all the platforms. This is the only Smash game where it appears, and it's a damn shame. I love little throwaway games like this, and, like Break the Targets, it feels like an important part of the game to me for whatever reason. Race to the Finish is the bonus mode that I don't care too much about. There is only one course, and there's only one finish, and it's not character-specific. This mode is much better in Melee. You also can't access this mode from the main menu for whatever reason, so if you want to play this mode, you gotta run through the one-player game again. The last one-player mode is the training mode. It's a nice mode to mess around in and try to get combos down. You can also spawn items in at will and pick your enemy's damage. Now you may question to yourself, Why the hell did you go over the single player stuff? In Super Smash Bros., the only thing that matters is the multiplayer. That is true, but I like the single player stuff for whatever reason, even though it's pretty light on content. You gotta keep in mind, this is a fighting game, and it was released in 1999. A lot of fighting games at this time were uber light on single player content. Actually, I guess there's one more thing I want to go over in the one-player game, and that's unlocking the 4 hidden characters. If you happen to meet the requirements to unlock a character, they will challenge you after you beat the one-player game, or I guess in Luigi's case, the break the targets. If you can beat them, they will join your cast, and you can use them for whatever you want. If you happen to lose though, they will stay locked, and you will have to meet the conditions again to have another chance to fight them. The AI is pretty brain dead in this game, so it's certainly not an impossible task. It should be noted that these characters can only be unlocked by meeting criteria for the single-player modes. If you just play multiplayer over and over and over, you won't unlock these 4. As said before, the 4 unlockable characters are Luigi, Jigglypuff, Ness, and Captain Falcon. Super Smash Bros. Easily succeeds the most on the multiplayer front. Under Versus, 1 through 4 players or CPU players can duke it out on 1 to 9 stages. There are also items that can be used. Some highlights include the home run bat, the high damaging hammer, the sliding green shell, and of course, the Pokeball. It's my favorite item because when thrown, it will summon a random Pokemon that will hopefully aid whoever threw it. There are a total of 13 Pokemon that can be released from it, and I love the variety that's on display. My favorite one is Clefairy because it uses the move Metronome, and what that does? It copies a different Pokemon's attacking move. I think it's hilarious when it copies Beedrill and Clefairy just start flooding the stage. So now, let's go over the 9 stages. Up first is Peach's Castle, and I have no idea what the hell this is even supposed to be. It's almost like the development team just threw random geometry together and said, screw it, this is a stage. The bumper on top is a great touch, and overall I like this one because of its odd nature. Then we have Congo Jungle, the home stage of DK. The music to this one is classic as hell, and the barrel at the bottom is fun to mess around with. Hyrule Castle is the home of Link, and it's pretty solid. The geometry of this one is super unique. The right of it has a little house structure that you can hide in, and the middle has some platforms that the player can scale upward. From time to time, a little tornado will come through and suck up players and shoot them back out. I really enjoy this one. Up next is Planet Zeebs, and when the metaphorical boys and I meet up, we have a rule that this stage is picked, we quit. We just don't find this one fun at all. The acid keeps rising and burns the players as they fall. Just lame all in all, and oh yeah, this one's the home stage of Samus. Yoshi's Island is up next, and take a wild guess what universe this stage belongs to. It takes nods from Yoshi's story, as the stage itself is a giant storybook. There are also 2 sets of clouds to the right that will disappear if stepped on for too long. The left side of the stage also features 1 set of clouds for a total of 3. They're super fun to mess around with because the CPU acts like they aren't even there. They start to lose their minds if you camp on them. Another very solid stage. Up next is Dreamland from the Kirby franchise, and this is the most basic stage. It's even laid out like the Battlefield stages, and the only gimmick is Wispy Woods in the center. He will take a huge puff of air and blow fighters away slightly. The soundtrack absolutely rocks, and it's nice to have a stage in there for more serious players. This stage is good by me. Sector C from Star Fox is next, and this one's okay. The stage is massive and takes place on top of the Great Fox. From time to time, an R-Wing will come down and shoot the fighters. You can hop on top of one and take it for a ride, but just make sure you get off before it reaches the blast zone. I think we may have found the definition of perfect right here. Up next, we have Saffron City, which is home to Pikachu and Jigglypuff. The layout of this stage is just so bizarre. The box where the Pokemon come out of is also amazing. Charmander can come out and burn you, Chansey will throw out an egg and heal 5% if you touch it, Porygon will rush through and deal decent damage, Venusaur will use Razor Leaf, and Electrode will use Explosion and cause massive damage and knockback. I also find it hilarious that if Ness falls in between the buildings, he will not be able to use his triple jump correctly. Butterfree, Pidgey, Fearow, and Moltres can all be seen flying in the background too. My favorite stage in all of Smash history right here, baby. Mushroom Kingdom is the only unlockable stage, and this stage slaps pretty hard. There are warp pipes that the fighters can use, piranha plants that come out of those warp pipes, a POW block that will hurt everyone on the ground when hit, and a seesaw mechanism in the middle. This music will also speed up when there are only 2 fighters left in stock mode, or a minute left in time mode, which is a great reference to the Super Mario Bros. Franchise. There are still a couple of things to touch on, such as the character profiles. These are basically the predecessor to trophies in Melee. I love reading the information about these guys, but it kind of blows that Pikachu's is just the Pokédex entry of Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow. All in all, I've wasted way more time reading these over and over again, while watching their animations more than I care to admit. There are also records where you can see how many KOs and falls each character has in Versus mode. I'm a huge geek, so this is an appreciated feature. The OST to this game is incredible. The main menu theme is just so weird, but I love it. The music just it sounds kind of bare or something. Not quite sure what it is, but you also got to keep in mind that it ropes in music from other franchises too. It collects to one hell of a soundtrack, which can also be accessed at any time. The game's noises and sounds can be played back too, from character voices to Pokemon voices to item sounds. That's another thing I meant to bring up too. The absurd sounds that emit when people hit each other is so great and over the top. It's just so unnecessarily loud, and I miss that shit in the newer games. Also, Fat Pikachu is adorable. In all honesty, I actually kind of like the blocky N64 graphics. Probably just rose-tinted glasses, I know, but it gives it a distinct look from the rest of the franchise and it helps it stand out a bit. Now, before I get too positive here, let's look at some negatives. This game is not balanced in any way, shape, or form. Pikachu and Kirby are OP as hell. Meanwhile, the bottom couple of characters are just simply bad. If you're just messing around with the game and not taking it too seriously, you can just brush off that criticism. The other main problem is the lack of content. As I said before, for a fighting game in 1999, this was acceptable. The main problem is that it's not going to give enough content for people nowadays. For many, this will provide a couple afternoons of fun before they see most of what this game has to offer. It can also drop frames like crazy when there are 4 players and there is a lot going on in the game. Smash 64 may not be a game that's talked about much anymore, but it has one hell of a legacy. Its 4 sequels have sold very well and received very positive reviews to just straight up critical acclaim. The game itself sold 5 million units and is the 5th best-selling game on the Nintendo 64. On the retrospective top 10 Nintendo 64 list, Smash 64 is usually rocking it on the charts somewhere. It was also released on the Wii's Virtual Console on December 21st, 2009 here in the US, and I'm very glad it did. Playing this game with a GameCube controller is pretty nice and it makes it feel more like Melee. It's a damn shame that it wasn't released for the Wii U Virtual Console because I want to throw my money at this game again, damn it. Not to mention, too, that the Wii Shop channel is also down, so there's no way to purchase it anymore. Smash 64 is a game that I adore. This is one of those games that I completely understand why it's so relevant and no one really talks about it anymore. It's had 4 or 5 sequels now, well, depending on how you count Smash 4, and these brought in new modes, characters, stages, items, and other features. For a lot of people, this game is just a distant memory that they don't ever really want to visit ever again. They'd be put off by the lack of content, weird Nintendo 64 graphics, and overall clunkiness of it. However, I still love this game and play it more than some of the sequels that came after it. It just feels so right to get the metaphorical boys together and crank on the Nintendo 64 slider with the Super Smash Bros. Cartridge inside of it. I know many will disagree, but Smash 64 is a 7 out of 7 to me.